Hello, I am a woman in my 50s with many stories to tell. Looking back now, I realize I was an unlucky person. Even when I turned 40, my life was one where I couldn't relax for a moment. Have you ever heard of someone whose life took a complete 180-degree turn? When I first heard those words, I thought they were an exaggeration, but something miraculous happened to me, and now I'm living a completely different life. I believe the saying, "Life is truly unpredictable," is true. I was born the eldest daughter of a typical and sensitive family. From the moment I was born, I wasn't welcomed because I wasn't a boy, and my mother faced negative treatment for giving birth to a girl. My own mother blamed me for the family's problems. A year later, when she gave birth to my brother, she began treating me unfairly. The most isolating thing was that I grew up not knowing she was discriminating against me compared to my brother, and accepted the abuse. I always thought I had to give up anything good for my younger brother, including clothes, food, or even a blanket to sleep with during the harsh winter. My younger brother always slept in a soft, comfortable bed with good blankets, but I slept on a cheap mattress with old, torn blankets. When my younger brother attended a prestigious private high school, I couldn't even dream of going to a technical school. I resented this deeply and hated my family. I really wanted to go to school and persistently begged my father to send me. For the first time in my life, I was stubborn. Why send a girl to high school? Your family is overflowing with money. Why add headaches by insisting on going to high school? Isn't it good enough that you were sent to elementary school? That's something you should be grateful to your parents for the rest of your life. But how dare you? You should stay quiet and just go out to earn money to pay back what was spent on your housing and just get married, understood? It wasn't as if I chose to be born. To be honest, I couldn't believe a father could say something like that to his daughter. Additionally, I felt it was unfair to pay back when I was given nothing significant. However, I had no choice but to give up on high school due to my father's sermons. I ended up getting a job at a textile factory at 16. I worked at the factory during the day and studied at night secretly from my family. I wanted to take the high school equivalency exam to at least get the certificate. I don't know why I had to study secretly, as if studying were a crime. I still feel the pain whenever I think about that time. 3 years later, I turned 19 and at the same time passed the high school equivalency exam. I thought I could pass the exam soon, but I could only study after work without anyone's help. It was very difficult, but I think it was the first time I felt I could do things on my own. From that moment, I started to change gradually. I decided to reject the unfair treatment I received just for being a daughter. I secretly left home as if I were fleeing at night, but finally I managed to live on my own. It was a 19-year-old struggle. Instead of living unjustly under my parents, living independently and equally seemed better. Despite the hardships, I was happy enough with that. After living alone for 2 years, I met my husband, with whom I later divorced during the worst time. I was working in a restaurant when my husband, who was the only son of the owner, always praised and encouraged me, saying I was doing everything very well. It was the first time I was praised, so I fell in love with him. My husband had just left the army and was preparing to return to college. He asked me out, and not even a year had passed since we started dating. But without any fear, we registered our marriage without a wedding ceremony and began living together in my studio apartment. When my boss, the restaurant owner, and my mother-in-law found out, she was so shocked and furious, creating a huge commotion. I feel sorry for you since you had nowhere to go, so I accepted and gave you a job. How dare you seduce my son? Do you think I would accept you into our family as my daughter-in-law? Ungrateful. You can't stay with my son. It's better to leave him right now. Don't even think about being paid for your work here because you are causing harm to my family, understand? I thought that if I left home, I wouldn't have to deal with unfair treatment, but when I heard my mother-in-law's monologue, I wondered why I had to be blamed for everything that happened. I thought it was unfair. I didn't seduce her son. If there was any seduction, it was on his part. We simply liked each other and decided to live together. You like each other? That makes me laugh. My son is a college student. He could meet many beautiful girls on campus, so why would my son want someone like you? I think you are not aware of reality, so I'll show you clearly what kind of person I am today. She rolled up her sleeves and, indeed, showed me very clearly what kind of person she was. I didn't have much, but with her own hands she broke everything in my place. She was that kind of person I knew for sure, but I couldn't give up. The reason was not just because I loved my husband, but also because I was pregnant at that time. Just as I was about to tell her about it, my husband heard that his mother was at his place and rushed over. Trying to calm his mother, who was out of control with anger, he said, "Mom, don't do this. It's my fault. I should have told you earlier. I'm really sorry, so please stop this. Why would you live with a leech like her? Do you think I went through all kinds of hardships raising you just to have a daughter-in-law like her? Matilda is a kind and good person. Do you prefer a snobby daughter-in-law? Even though Matilda has nothing to show, I prefer her because she's kind. We've legally married and soon we'll have a baby, so it's already too late." "What? You're going to have a baby? That leech has planned everything to ruin our family. You've trapped my son with a baby. Is that baby really my son's?" "Yes, it's true. You may not want to believe it, but it's the truth. No matter how much you speak ill of me, the father of this baby is your son." My mother-in-law collapsed to the floor in despair. Even after this incident, she continued to accuse me of the baby not being my husband's. But what could she do when her son told her it was his child? This is how my unwanted marriage began. My husband said we would have a wedding when he earned some money, but being a student with no job, and having already cut ties with my parents, I had no desire for a wedding. I told him it was fine and that I was happy this way. While I was sincere, it was also a lie. In exchange for his mother's acceptance of our marriage, I was forced to move into her house. Even though I was pregnant, she made me work even harder, making me labor both at home and in a restaurant. She always yelled at me saying, "For someone who seduced my son, how dare you complain about working hard like this?" I had to endure difficult times both physically and mentally, and often wondered why nothing in my life was easy, crying alone frequently. But I managed to bear it, because I had my husband's warm hand holding mine. I lived this way for over 5 years, spending my golden years raising my daughter, taking care of my mother-in-law's household chores, and working in a restaurant. One day, my mother-in-law lost everything because she was swindled by a con artist. Oh my God, what should I do? These scammers, how could they deceive me and leave me like this? "Mom, what should we do now? We have nowhere to go." So, I tried to calm the situation and said, "Dear, stop it. Your mother didn't do this on purpose. Even though it's not much, I have some money saved, so we should be able to rent a room under the bridge. Don't burden your mother. Let's not create drama." However, she became irritated and said, "You offend my son. All of this is your fault. A good woman should have come into our family, but because of someone as unlucky as you, I was deceived, which has never happened to me before. You know what? You should be responsible for this. If you were from a good family, we would have somewhere to stay and money to get back on our feet." I should have been angry at that moment, but I could only sigh. My child was still small, so I couldn't leave. With the money I had saved, we rented a 2-bedroom basement apartment. My mother-in-law was bedridden, and my husband worked 2 jobs to try to earn more money. I also started doing home-based work. We lived a hard life like this for over 10 years. My husband and I had to earn a living first, so we were obsessed with making money, and the love I thought my husband had for me, which I believed would last forever, disappeared a long time ago. However, I thought everyone lived this way, and if I could at least raise my daughter well, I could endure anything. Because I was mistreated for being a daughter, I didn't want to pass that isolating treatment to my daughter. So if my daughter wanted something, I wanted to get it for her, even if I had to go hungry. But my mother-in-law didn't even want to see me. What money do we have? Why are you so dedicated and spend so much money on your daughter? If you have so much money to give her good food, why not give it to your husband? He is suffering to earn money, yet you only care about your daughter and not your husband. If you had a rich family, would my son be suffering like this? Your son is suffering because you were deceived. Have you forgotten that? And my granddaughter, you shouldn't be so harsh on her. What did you say? My son is suffering because of me? You're not even afraid of me anymore? Okay, I'll show you today. My mother-in-law started throwing and breaking everything except the expensive things in the house. I took my daughter outside and sighed as I heard things breaking inside. After she spent all her energy breaking things, she claimed she was sick and stayed in bed. My husband, who used to be on my side, complained that I wasn't taking care of his mother. We started to drift apart, and now he was picking on me, even when I did nothing wrong. I still wanted to keep our marriage for the sake of our daughter and worked hard to earn money. When my daughter entered high school, we managed to buy and move into a house big enough for us. On the day we were moving, my mother-in-law, who was in high spirits, said, "Thanks to my son, you are living in luxury, aren't you? How could you afford to live in such a big house? You should be grateful to my son, do you understand? Looking out from here, I feel like the whole world is below me." To be able to pay for this house, I had saved every penny. Still, I resented that she directed all the credit to her son alone. I was so used to her behavior that I didn't even get irritated anymore. Just when I thought everything would be fine, I faced another unexpected disaster that forced me to get a divorce. My standard of living has since improved. My husband, who worked in sales at a construction company, frequently used business as an excuse to go out drinking with clients and to be with other women. Even if it was for work, I didn't think it was right for him to often not come home and spend the night elsewhere. Every time I complained, he would get very angry with me. "Hey, I'm just joking. Taking clients out is also part of the job. Guys will go where the girls are. Do you think they want to go somewhere with only men? How can you be so narrow-minded? Where did you buy that dress you're wearing? Look in the mirror for a change. You claim to be my wife and nag me while wearing rags. I'm a man too. Seeing you looking so sloppy makes me not even want to come home." At that moment, my pride was deeply hurt by someone for whom I had wasted my golden years. That night, while washing my face, I couldn't tell if it was water or my tears. Then one day, he came home drunk and called me the next morning, saying he had forgotten an important contract at home and shouted at me to bring the envelope with the contract to his workplace within 10 minutes. I couldn't even put on a coat and just grab my wallet and the envelope to catch a taxi, which I normally wouldn't take. When I arrived at my husband's workplace in a hurry and asked for him, he approached me with a frown, looking embarrassed by the way I was dressed. Someone nearby said, "Arthur, what are you doing here? Didn't you say you had an important contract to sign? The president of that company is already here." "Yes, I know. I'll be there soon. I'll bring the contract," my husband replied. "Oh, you must have left it at home. Is she your wife?" the person asked. "What are you talking about? She's a hired maid," my husband said without any remorse, and walked away, leaving me standing there with trembling legs. Then I overheard my husband's colleagues. "The president kept asking for you, but what are you doing here? And who is that woman?" "Arthur must be rich. He even has a maid. I almost mistook her for his wife." "I'm not rich. My wife is busy these days, and I have standards. How could I live with a woman like that, the way she dresses and her hair?" my husband said. I had a big fight with my wife to get her out, and he continued speaking without remorse. Is she really your maid? She doesn't seem like the type for you, Arthur. Come quickly. We don't have time. Do you really think you can sign the contract? Trust me, I've worked hard for this account. You'll see. Securing this contract will guarantee my promotion to senior manager. My wife must be very happy, he said. But I wasn't happy. He made me look so pathetic that day. I went back home sobbing, and as if hypnotized, I went to a department store for the first time in my life and bought clothes for myself. However, my husband mocked me without any hint of guilt. Just because you paint stripes on a pumpkin, it doesn't become a watermelon, he said. How dare you spend money at the department store and buy clothes? Are you crazy? Return those clothes right now. My husband was furious with me, but I refused to return the clothes. After that incident, he openly mocked me, calling me ugly and saying I looked like a beggar. His mother also joined in, saying her son had finally realized the truth and regretted not listening to her. My body trembled with anger. I could endure a lot of abuse from them, but I couldn't bear it when my daughter was witnessing everything. There's a saying that a daughter inherits her mother's fate, and I was worried that my daughter would end up with a life like mine. One day, out of the blue, my husband told me he didn't want to live with me anymore. He said if I wanted money to rent an apartment, I should sign the divorce papers immediately. When I refused, he admitted he had a mistress who was pregnant and that I should leave the house so he could bring her in. How could he be so shameless after committing adultery? I swore I would never leave. He could manage 2 households if he wanted. I had worked so hard for this house, and there was no way I would let another woman take over. His mother threw all my clothes in the trash, saying I was blocking her son's future because I couldn't even bear him a son. My daughter witnessed all this when she got home from school. She cried and told me, "Mom, don't accept this. Just get a divorce. Why should you put up with such abusive treatment? You should leave Dad and Grandma. Why endure all this abuse? I hate seeing you just accept it." My mother-in-law heard this and got furious. "You've trained your daughter well. Where did she learn such bad behavior? Did your mother teach you this when I wasn't around? Even now you should scold the one who's having an affair. Just because she's pregnant, you want my mum to leave. You fool, you think you'll continue our family line. This is all happening because your mother seduced your father. Enough. I can't take this anymore. I'm getting a divorce. This house is mine too. I put a lot of money into buying it, Arthur. I won't ask for the full amount. Just give me half the value of the house and pay monthly child support for our daughter." "You're so greedy, aren't you? Do it legally if you want. You're right to ask for a divorce after having an affair. I'm right to ask for what's due to me. Let's fight it out. Meanwhile, your mistress's belly will only get bigger." "Arthur, you don't need to worry. Besides, that little idiot standing by her mother should also be thrown out. Now that you're forming a new family, you need to get rid of them." "Dad, I won't accept this. I'll go to your workplace and tell everyone what kind of person you really are. How dare you support that spoiled brat? Whose money do you think raised you?" I couldn't stand hearing my daughter spoken to like that. "Don't talk to Yasmin that way. She didn't get any money from you for food or school. Arthur, if you think you're so righteous, let's go. As for me, all I need to do is sign the divorce papers." At that moment, I learned once again that when you need to fight, you must stand firm. My husband must have thought I would sign the divorce papers as he wished, and he seemed very surprised by my firm stance. I told him I wouldn't sign the papers until he gave me the money. I don't know where he got the money, but that night he deposited it into my checking account. That's how I got divorced. Even though we didn't have a good marriage, I felt empty. I went through a difficult period after the divorce, but I needed to work to support my daughter, who was preparing for college. However, with my lack of work experience, finding a job was very difficult. Then I saw an advertisement looking for a housekeeper. Despite my past traumas, I had been a housekeeper before. I put aside my negative feelings and went to an employment agency, considering that being a housewife also qualified me. For the next 6 months, I worked as a daily or temporary housekeeper. Because I worked quickly and cleaned meticulously, I was recognized for my efforts. During this time, the president of the agency made me a special offer. Well, I usually wouldn't recommend this to a newcomer, but since you're a great worker, I'll tell you, among our clients is a very demanding one who lives alone. All you need to do is clean the house 3 times a week and cook some meals. I've sent over 20 people, but he rejected them all. So I'm asking you, if you become his permanent housekeeper, I'll pay you 3 times what you're earning now. 3 times what I was earning? I needed the money. My ex-husband was sending me child support, but I was always anxious that he would stop. My daughter was soon going to college, so I needed to save for tuition, so I told him I'd do it no matter what. But when I arrived at the house, I wished there were many things to clean. It was as perfectly clean as a hotel, and I didn't know what to do. I was uneasy, worrying about the payment being 3 times my current wage, but having nothing to do. From that moment, I had to intentionally create tasks to do and clean. I would take down the curtains and sheets to wash them, sterilize the linens, and clean the refrigerator. But since I worked quickly, the work was done in no time. So I went to the farmer's market, did some shopping, and started cooking. I didn't know what he liked or how much seasoning to use. Nothing was easy from start to finish. I tried to remember the dishes my daughter praised and made them, including soup. I organized everything in the freezer. When I was ready to leave, I thought about the money I had received. The work I was doing wasn't enough. So I wrote a note and told him that if he wanted to eat something, I would be happy to make it for him. If he left a request in the fridge, it would be ready by the time I came back. Contrary to my worries, he didn't complain. I continued working, doing my best, but still creating unnecessary tasks to justify the payment I was receiving. I did my best. Then I noticed a date circled on his calendar with a reminder. When I looked at the date, it wasn't a day I was scheduled to work, and I wondered if it was a special day for someone. I started worrying that he might need food prepared for that day, so I thought I should just make the food the night before. When I had something to do, I was so happy and lost track of time while cooking. When the homeowner returned, I was still cooking. "Oh, I'm sorry. I was cooking and lost track of time. I'll finish up and leave soon. By the way, have you eaten? Should I set the table for you?" "No, it's fine. But why are you cooking so much food?" "Oh, I saw the date on the calendar marked as a special day, so..." I noticed he had shopping bags in his arms, presumably for preparing food for that day. I wondered if I'd made a mistake and felt confused about what to do. Fortunately, or unfortunately, he didn't say anything and just told me to clean up and leave soon after. He then went into his room. I thought I would surely be fired, but nothing happened, so I went to work as usual. This time, there was a note in the fridge. "Thank you for the food." When I saw the note, I felt so happy. After that incident, I cleaned the house and cooked with joy, realizing for the first time that I truly enjoyed doing housework. The next day when I went to work, another note was on the fridge. "The amount of food is too much. Please reduce it." From that moment, we started communicating through notes. "Today's soup is very delicious. Please heat it before eating. Thank you." It was really tasty today. Someone was selling a flower vase, so I bought it for the house, but if you don't like it, I will take it away. Because of the flower vase, the house's atmosphere is brighter. Thank you. I don't have confidence in keeping it alive. Can you take care of it as well? You don't like it? No, it's fine. We communicated this way, and after 6 months I was eager to go to work and didn't have to worry about what to cook. Was I smiling to myself? I began to laugh. My daughter saw me and asked, "Mom, are you dating someone? Your face looks so bright." I was perplexed and told her I wasn't, but I didn't know what to think because I was definitely feeling something inside. One day when I went to work, the client seemed to have a cold. He was at home and told me to leave, but I couldn't leave a sick person alone. So I went to pharmacy and bought some medicine for him and made chicken soup. I left a note in the fridge to make sure he took the medicine and ate the soup for a faster recovery. The next day, he returned with a set of cosmetics as a gift. I felt I shouldn't accept such presents, so I deliberately set the table and waited for him. He seemed surprised to see me still in the house, thinking I would have already left, and stood at the door. I said, "Well, I thought I shouldn't accept gifts like this, but if I left it here without taking it, you might misunderstand, so I stayed to tell you in person." "Ah, it was because I rushed you. Your meals are more than enough. How are you feeling?" "I didn't think you would eat, so I prepared the table. If you don't eat, I'll clean up and leave." "Actually, I'm very hungry. Why don't you eat with me?" "Oh, how could I eat with a client? It's better if I go home and eat with my daughter." "Ah, you have a daughter. It must be nice to have a family member to eat with. I apologize because I eat alone. No matter how delicious it is, it doesn't taste the same, and I just eat out of habit. It's been a long time since I ate with my family. This doesn't mean what you make isn't delicious. It's very good, seasoned just the way I like it. There has never been a dish I disliked. If it's really okay with you, I'd like to eat with you. I'm not your family, but it's better than eating alone." It was the first time I ate with my client. I had never eaten with any man other than my ex-husband. I thought it would be awkward, but soon we were chatting animatedly. I discovered that the special day was for his mother. At first, I thought it was for his wife, which was why he was preparing the food himself. He was really different from any man I knew at that time. I also found out that he had never been married. He was older than me, but had suffered a lot when he was young. He joked that all the women he met ran away from him. After that, women only approached him because of his money, so he chose not to marry. When his mother, who lived with him, passed away, he regretted not marrying for the first time. Then, as if he realized he was talking too much about himself, he suddenly asked, "What kind of person is your husband? Would he be mad if he knew you had dinner with me?" I didn't know if I felt relaxed there or if it was because we had communicated through notes all the time, but I confessed about me and my husband that we divorced due to his affair. It was an embarrassing story of my life. When I regained my senses, I apologized and got up to clean the table. My client, also seemingly embarrassed, went to his room. The next day, when I went to work, there was a note in the fridge saying, "If everything is okay with you, could you be my dinner partner like yesterday? Food tastes better when we eat together. I'm leaving this credit card for you to use for making tastier meals for me. Please use it freely." While holding that card in my hand, I thought of all the possibilities. It would be a lie to say I wasn't excited and emotionally affected. As a responsible housekeeper, it would be scandalous to show interest in my client. So, after much concern, I told him I couldn't be his dinner partner and left a credit card with a note in the fridge. I felt I needed to set a boundary, to be professional at that moment. The next day, he called me, saying he got my number from their job agency. I thought I was being notified of being fired, but contrary to my worries, he confessed he was interested in me as a woman. "I'm not sure what you'll think, but I have to confess my feelings. After hearing your life story, my heart ached like never before, Mr. Rodrigo. As someone who has been married, I don't believe in the word never. Now, starting with good feelings for each other, you can feel that. But people change over time, and you might regret it later. I'm not young anymore, and I want to regret it," he said. "My feelings started because I started to like you, but I want to become your family. I'm begging you to become my family. I want to have dinner with you and your daughter. I want to drink and go out on weekends. It's the first time in my life I've ever felt this way. Was it because I was interested in him too? In my mind, I didn't want to be hurt again, but my heart wouldn't listen to my mind at all. So I ended up meeting him with my daughter. I don't know why my daughter liked him, but when she told me to meet the guy who said he liked me, it wasn't like her father saying we only have one life to live. I started to cry. I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing, but I decided to get married again, even though I had refused. He said we should have a wedding ceremony for the first time. I had the chance to choose a wedding dress and went to a hotel to see the wedding salon. He told me he had to take care of the company's business and asked me to wait at the hotel, where I bumped into the face I didn't want to see again. My ex-husband was there. What's this? Why are you in this hotel that doesn't suit you? What are you looking at? What's with your face? What does this have to do with you? Wearing makeup or coming to the hotel to pay attention to me? Focus on your business. What business? It would be nothing but flattery. Hey, after divorcing me, you seem so arrogant now. At this moment, since I don't live with you, nothing could be better. If I had known this before the divorce, I would have seen all the dirty things you did. Why are you taking advantage of some rich old man or something? And when they told me you were getting married, you have your own wife to worry about, right? Oh, she already had your baby. You should take a closer look to see if that child is really yours. What? How did you know that? What did I know? Is it true that the baby wasn't yours? Yes, how did you know that? I didn't know. I was forced to divorce you. How could I know? That's when my future husband was coming towards me, and my ex-husband's face instantly turned ugly. Actually, his face became more agitated. Mr. Rodrigo, why didn't you come in? What are you doing here? I ended the conversation because I thought you wouldn't come. But you know my wife. You're here with her. Darling, I'll tell you later, okay? Do as you wish. And Arthur, I apologize for the contract this time. It doesn't fit our company's schedule. Mr. Rodrigo, I'll lower the prices and meet all your terms. Please sign the contract. If I can't get this contract signed, it will be a big problem for the company. If you lower the prices, other calculations won't fit. Your company's problem isn't my concern. I like everything clean. You know my style too. One more thing to warn you. If anyone bothers any member of my family, I won't tolerate it. So I hope you understand what I'm saying, and I don't want you near my wife anymore. That's my warning. My future husband warned and held my hand, leaving the hotel. When I asked him how he found out, he said he saw a photo of him that someone showed me once. I didn't know they did that. After that incident, I had a wedding ceremony with my current husband. My daughter and I moved into my husband's house. My ex-husband said he couldn't allow an absent father to raise our daughter and demanded I send her to him. My daughter is over 18 and can make her own decisions, but she established that her only father was my current husband. When I think of my ex-husband needing to live with his mother, I feel like I'm avenged. It's no use regretting it now. He should have been kind when we were with him. We are deeply loved by my current husband, and we are living happily together. My daughter wanted to study more and went to study abroad. My husband told Yasmin to do whatever she wanted because he would fully support her. I felt very grateful to him, so every day I dedicate myself to him. My husband is also very kind to me. I considered myself an unlucky woman, but lately I'm very lucky and live so happily as if nothing from my past had happened. I dare say I'm a very lucky person. If I could have one last wish, I hope to live with my current husband in good health, and that our love never changes, and that we become the voice. I will pray for my wish to come true, and although my past was regrettable before, it is now a happy story.